Hey guys, thanks for tuning on in. Brendan Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. Much appreciated. Hey, the Tobin and Leroy show is now available on YouTube. Not just clips, but we are streaming now all 4 hours on YouTube, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with the archive being up there on the page as well. So you guys can now go watch the whole show. We have been doing this on Twitch, but now it is, of course, accessible on the biggest video platform digitally, which now has the NFL ticket. We're the same. The NFL, Tobin and Leroy, we didn't get $2.5 billion from YouTube, but, we're still there. Same platform. So looking forward to that for all the out-of-towners who got to watch the Dolphins on YouTube. We're happy to be at the same home, baby, so it's great to have you all here with us and supporting this channel, supporting Tobin and Leroy radio show. And if you guys want to carry us around in your ears, you could always download the Tobin and Leroy podcast there as well. And the Porpoise Pod, of course, with my guy Solana. So lots of fun stuff coming as Miami Dolphins looking to really get a hold on this playoff clinching stuff. And they got to start with getting a win against Aaron Rodgers, who had some cool things to say about Tua. If you guys didn't hear Aaron Rodgers, this is what the Packers QB had to say about Tua Tagovailoa.
91 in at halftime and in the national championship game, and I think just like everybody else, we're thinking, what? Why? And then obviously he showed his incredible ability and had a great career down there. Dealt with a couple, head injuries this year, which are dangerous. But I enjoyed the way that he plays. He plays on time. He throws the ball accurately. Does a nice job with his eye control for a young player. He's got obviously good pocket movement. He can extend plays. They've had a couple pretty incredible fourth quarter comebacks this year, where he's been super efficient. He has some great weapons, but been impressed with the way he plays. I like the way he handles himself too. I think he handles himself with a lot of respect and class, and I think there's a lot to be said for that for a young player.
We've talked a lot about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that too, and appreciate Aaron Rodgers acknowledging that from Tua, that he is not only been handling a lot of stuff off the field, not only impressing on the field, but has had to handle a lot of BS off the field, which Aaron Rodgers is certainly used to in many different forms, whether it be replacing a Brett Favre or taking ayahuasca, whatever the hell, with retiring, not retiring. He's had plenty famous girlfriends, all that stuff. And certainly there's been, dealing with butting heads with an organization, maybe at different times because they weren't quite believing and giving him the reins. Tua had to kind of deal with that stuff from the start. But look, man, he is what has you scared this weekend. If you are nervous and you're a Dolphin fan, and I think that totality of team, you certainly look at the Packers and you're like, this Dolphins team is better. And if they lose this game, it is going to hurt. It is going to feel it is going to feel like a death blow, even though, technically you can still make the playoffs with a couple of divisional wins afterwards, but you're like 4 straight losses, no wins in December. The Dolphin fan, especially after how hard last week was fought, you're going to be thinking to yourself, man, I think faith will be rattled a little bit if they don't get this win coming up on Christmas. And the Dolphins aren't a massive favorite at home. They're 4-point favorites. So people do acknowledge, I think that the Vegas acknowledges that the Dolphins are a better team. It's not going to be the nicest day in South Florida history. It's certainly not going to be what it was in Buffalo, but little brisk, little chilled iguana action that's going to be happening on that morning. And he is number 12 on the Packers is what has you scared, because even with all their shortcomings and everything that this team is better at in the Dolphins, you look at them and you're like, all right, well, if this guy gets you in a tough situation, especially with some of the secondary issues there have been, and Javon Holland's a little bit banged up, Xavier Howard hasn't quite looked the same, and you got rookies in other spots. So that is, I think, what has you I don't think up at night, but maybe when you get up to brush your teeth, you're thinking about it a little bit earlier. As far as going into this week, though, there was some interesting stuff that came out over the last couple of days. The Dolphins, first of all, a bunch of Pro Bowlers named to the Miami Dolphins. They had a lot of guys that got on. Tyreek Hill going to the Pro Bowl. That's a no-brainer. That's obvious. You had to do it. You don't have a Pro Bowl if you don't have Tyreek Hill there. You have Fugazi Pro Bowl. Teron Armstead, definitely deserving. He is, I think everybody respects what he's done this year, and especially has done banged up. and is done to a really, really great ability. And I think one that was surprising to a lot of us, and obviously he still has a lot of respect of his peers and the people who he goes up against, is Xavier Howard. I think that if you were up and down that Dolphins defense and you were say, all right, who are the Pro Bowlers here? I think people would probably look and say Christian Wilkins, Javon Holland, maybe Jalen Phillips because he's come on strong, maybe Zach Sealer. I don't think a lot of people had Xavier Howard. I think even he said today that he was surprised. He was surprised that he made it, that this year hasn't exactly been up to par. So, Leroy was talking about this. Like, once you make it, it's like very, you making it again is not unfrequent. It's that first time you crack through, which is the toughie. That's the one where you really have to go out there and impress upon people that, hey, you have arrived at this type of level. And then, the Pro Bowl, it's that first wave. I think that is always, I almost feel like it should be like another distinction of like voted Pro Bowl or first selected Pro Bowl as opposed to like many times alternate Pro Bowl. Like I remember the year where like David Garrard made the Pro Bowl. Last year, Mac Jones making the Pro Bowl. So that is definitely a thing that I think surprised Dolphins. That's Xavier. Now the big news, of course, Tua, he led the fan vote, all fan vote, which I feel like, look, positionally, I'm going to make new rules. Positionally, I can hear you. All right. Maybe we don't give it to everybody. Maybe it's not the biggest piece of the pie, whatever. But if you were the overall leading vote getter, I feel like that should be an automatic bid. If the people want to see you that much, we were talking about this today too. Like, I know it's in Vegas, but imagine the old school Pro Bowl in Hawaii, right? And imagine Tua is one of the quarterbacks. You will actually have like a really cool atmosphere for the Pro Bowl, which I've been to before. I remember when it was first down here in Miami, which is why I remember the David Garrard year, because I remember covering it for $7.90 the ticket. And, they were switching it up. They were putting it in a new location. That was kind of cool. I mean, it was cool to see all those guys up close, all the stars of the league. That was pretty badass. But I think, that Hawaii thing, people did like that trip to Hawaii. Players did like that trip to Hawaii. It was at least some kind of incentive, not just the fact of, you have to go play in this game that nobody cares about. But if Tua was playing in Hawaii, I feel like that place would just be absolutely rocking. But he doesn't make it. He is a first alternate. And as he said yesterday, I hope I'm unavailable for it. I hope that he hopes that he's going to be busy with a game. He doesn't want to be available for February 5th. So you got to respect that. If he does, I feel like, look, of the guys that are there, Burrow, Mahomes, Josh Allen, or the Dolphins, I say it'd be a surprise if all three of those guys end up going, whether it be via injury or if one of those teams advances. So I think, like, should Tua get to the Super Bowl and not be available? Awesome. If for some reason the Dolphins get bounced, I would imagine it's probably going to be one of those three quarterbacks that makes it. So I would imagine he probably is going to make the Pro Bowl. But it would have been cool if he would have gotten initially. I think the only thing you can really knock on him this year is the fact that he had this, that he missed some time with the concussion. I mean, that's like, if you're going to get on him about the losing streak, like, okay, he had a couple of, who among those, even those guys that I mentioned, who among them haven't had a couple of bad games this year? I venture you could go and find a few of them from all of them. So I don't think that you could say that wipes things away for him. But, to go from people, think about this, for Dolphins fans who are upset about it. First of all, the AFC's, that's a much healthier crop of QB. You're talking about in Mahomes and Allen, 1 and 2. Everybody would say probably right now they're 1 and 2 in the league. And then Burrow, is been good. All respect to Joe Burrow, and he obviously has the preconceived respect of making the Super Bowl last year. So, I think for a lot of people would look at maybe even that list and say, hey, those are probably the dudes right now. Those are probably the top 3 guys, because especially since a lot of the older veterans have fallen off, that those are the guys you really, really have to respect in the league. And so you talk about the idea that Tua was looked upon from a guy that was, people were saying, oh, he might be the 14th best quarterback in the entire conference, to now he's 4th. And if you really think about that, those are arguably the top 3 QBs in the league. Maybe you think it's too soon to put Tua top 5, but like for people who are saying he was like a bottom, third of the league guy, I think that comes off as wildly stupid. And now you could look at this and say, hey, he is proving some things. He's first in a lot of, efficiency, rating, all that stuff. Like he's number 1 in the league. But all that being said, he's gotten a lot of ass patting over the last, especially from Dolphin fans. I think the Dolphin fan would look at this and say, man, we need this guy to go out there and really make a statement this week against Green Bay. Do a lot of what he did against, Buffalo, but close it out, really go up against a guy in Aaron Rodgers, that even all the nice things they said, that smiling face with the hidden agendas, dude, that's rat poison. Don't let for that, don't let that sink into your head. And if he can get this team to the playoffs and Tua really can go from people thinking he should have been replaced to bringing them to the playoffs, and especially with missing some time this year, I think that a lot of the things you could throw at him would have to be thrown out. So, but that has to be done. It does. These next 3 games are absolutely vital, and I think certainly just getting the ball rolling out and getting back into a win streak would mean a lot to people. The final thing I wanted to get to was this. This was interesting. Mike McDaniel, we talked about this on the radio show, but the Bills pulled this dirty move with Mike Gesicki where Dawson Knox, their tight end, was mic'd up, and they leaked a conversation with him and Mike Gesicki where Mike Gesicki was basically praising him, but also was like, I love that they're effing using you. I'm like, oh, that's a cute thing to leave in. That's a real cute thing to leave in there, Buffalo. But Mike McDaniel did come out, and he said, quote, on Mike Gesicki, he's a good player, and I don't give him the ball enough. It feels as though it's a failure to some degree for myself. So Mike McDaniel acknowledging that he feels that he has come up short in utilizing Mike McDaniel, in utilizing Mike Gesicki, which I would say is an understatement, of course. He's got like 1 catch over the last 3 weeks. His game log, it's like he barely exists compared to what he did. 70-plus catches last year. He's got 25 this year. And I think for him, we all kind of knew that this was going to be Frosty's the wrong word, that this was going to be a weird relationship, a weird dynamic. You could just tell from the way they were talking about Mike, the way Mike was talking about here, the fact they didn't commit to him long term, the fact that Mike McDaniel comes from a system where blocking is so vital to his weapons, and the fact that he had a guy like George Kittle on his team. You could just kind of tell coming into the year this whole Gesicki thing probably wasn't going to get off to a rosy start. But then he kind of got into a little bit of a hot streak. He was being this red zone target. We were seeing his ugly ass gritty every single week. Like, all right, maybe this is coming together. But it really has felt like it's tapered off in a big, big way. What's the crucial moment you remember? It's the one where, he has the drop on the sidelines up against his head. Mike McDaniel reviews it, looks a fool because the ball was, he did not complete the catch. But, you think about some of the issues that they've had with, first of all, drops in the red zone, which was a killer. The people being more physical with their receivers, because Tyreek Hill, he's a dog, but he's not a big dude. Jalen Waddle, certainly not a big dude. Mike Gesicki's a behemoth, and so he may not be the biggest blocking threat out there for sure, but he is a mismatch, and it feels like that's something that probably could have been tried a little bit more over the last few games, and they feel like they've just gone completely away from it. The other thing is, like, look, you pay him the franchise tag, and okay, his numbers aren't great this year. This could be a big agency standoff and say, well, your numbers weren't great this year. We're not going to pay you what you think you're worth. He could say, please trade me. Dear God, I don't want to be here. But also, I think the Dolphins fan was thinking to himself, yeah, there were some Gesicki rumors out there, which they threw water on. But, like, why didn't they explore it more? Clearly, Chris Greer was wheeling and dealing and trying to make things happen. But and they were in an adding mode, not a selling mode. But this feels like you just kind of held on to an asset for what? I don't know. look, maybe they figure this out, and all of a sudden Gesicki has a couple TDs this week, and everybody's happy about it. But yeah, it has been very, very noticeable how unnoticeable he has been each game day.